The best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does on a Monday, and great to have you with us. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. I mean, I'd need 2 hours today. I mean, I could realistically do 2 hours today, so I'm not going to waste much time. Bill Bender will join us coming up in about 20 minutes. We'll talk with him about the world of college football. Just one segment with Bill today because there's a lot to get into. So let's jump into it, Sam Yarnell. I wrote a little rhyme, a little lyric, a limerick. What do they call it? At the top, the limerick, at the top of the screen. It says, Jets problems, Vikings fall, Atlanta falters, Chiefs stand tall. How do you like that? Come on.
Is that a haiku? I think that's a haiku.
I don't know. I thought it was a limerick. Like the... that's what I don't.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with the Jets because that was the most recent affair on Sunday night. And look, I mean, Sam, and now you're starting to see the media turn on this story, and the narrative is shifting to it has to be Aaron Rodgers now. Because you went and got Davante Adams, and after just one game, it wasn't some sterling success, which I got to be honest. Not everything is going to click right away. That being said, there's two things I want to say here. One, Aaron Rodgers is part of the problem. Two, he is not the entire problem. He is not the entire problem. Garrett Wilson has played like dog crap, basically for the start of this season. There's no getting around that. The third thing is, this is not an elite defense. We have to stop talking about it like it is. It's okay. It's good. It's better than average. And granted, a lot of times they find themselves on the field more than they'd probably like to be. But this is not an elite defense. We have to stop talking like this is an elite defense because the numbers show otherwise to me. Jets are 2-5. This thing is turning into the dumpster fire probably a lot of people in the media hoped it would be. What do you want to say, Sam?
The only teams that the Jets have held to your defensive point, the only teams they've held to under 23 points this season, the Titans, Patriots, and Broncos. And those are not three offensive juggernauts.
No, they're not.
You're exactly right about it. There are many problems with the Jets. I tried to tell all of you this before the season.
You did.
The Jets were never everything that we pretended they were. Aaron Rodgers was never the solve everything insert piece to this Jets team that makes them an automatic contender. There were holes left and right. And Jason, I think an even funnier part of this, real quick, on the Davante Adams thing, the worst thing that could have happened to the Davante Adams-Aaron Rodgers narrative yesterday was Josh Allen throwing that touchdown to Amari Cooper and Amari Cooper going for over 60 yards because they showed you that actual competent top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now can get a random guy off the street from a horrible team who they've never even played with before and work them into the offense that quickly. I think that's
not great competition. Not a great level of competition they were playing yesterday, though, either.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, come on, we got to point that out. But I do love how you found a way to bring that to the Buffalo Bills, real quick, because we've got a lot to get through here. I told you, Russ, give Russ a chance to cook. And everybody at halftime, oh my God, the mea culpas that had to take place in the second half after this game was over. From the Trey Wingos of the world and, all these different people that are just, they know everything. They know more than Mike Tomlin, who's won 2 Super Bowls, and a Mike Tomlin that consistently figures out, no matter what kind of roster he has, a chance to win every week, every year. But everybody knows more than Mike Tomlin. Until they didn't. And Russell Wilson played a good football game. He doesn't have to be Russell Wilson from 7-8 years ago. He doesn't have to be that good because that defense is elite, unlike what the Jets have. And he at least gives teams something to think about in the passing game. And as much as you might all like Justin Fields, he simply doesn't. He can run the football and it's great, but teams are not afraid of him beating them with their arm. And Russell Wilson can still, at a competent level, do more for that passing game. I loved the move.
Yeah, I still think they should go back to Justin Fields.
Not if they want to win a Super Bowl.
Russell Wilson looked pedestrian in this game. That's it.
He looked better than Justin Fields throwing the football, though.
I think that it's very clear and obvious. Mike Tomlin got caught out in a position where he never should have been, promising a job to someone before they had joined the team. And he thought that this was the place where he could throw them out in the national spotlight in a game where they probably should have lost, you thought, going in. And the immediate narrative would have shifted. All right, give it back to Russ. You have to think that that was Tomlin's thinking all along. The guy, Russell Wilson, barely completed 50% of his passes.
It's the his first game in almost a year, Sam.
A quarter of his yards came on a trick play that George Pickens bailed him out on because he juggled the ball twice on a horrible underthrow that should have been an interception.
Now, no, I did not say he was, Sammy Ball. I didn't say he was Franz Harkington.
You said he
played a good game. He did. He played a good game.
Pedestrian.
No, he played a good game. And you know what?
He's going
to get better. And he's going to get better. And now teams will not be able to just simply sit there and sit on the run and wait to see what he does. Let's move to the Chiefs and Niners because we only got a couple minutes. We'll get to Lions, Vikings, Falcons, Seahawks later on. Look, I told you all. I don't know how anybody bets against the Chiefs. The Niners suffer a huge injury here. We'll do more on the injuries on tomorrow's show and sort of get a lay of the land once we have some reports from coaches that come out on Monday. But Chiefs just continue to find ways to win. Last undefeated team standing. There you go.
It's truly amazing to me. They can continue to win these games with Patrick Mahomes just playing
average.
As horribly as he
horribly,
is.
Average.
No, he's not playing average. He is a
You're comparing him to him at his best. You're comparing him to him at his best.
No, I'm comparing him to the rest of the league right now. Statistically, after yesterday, he is a bottom 10 quarterback in the league in terms of touchdowns and interceptions and touchdown to interception ratio.
Stats don't
the guy
tell
turns
everything.
The ball over far too much and gets bailed out by a terrific defense that, again, Steve Spagnuolo, one of the worst victims of the Chiefs' success over the years, never gets his flowers, has been doing a tremendous job this year.
He gets his
Still
flowers.
Probably the best defensive coordinator in the league, especially after what Jared Goff did to Brian Flores yesterday. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, the numbers for the Chiefs off of a bye and when they're underdogs, they're incredible. You knew they were going to win this game.
Yeah, and the Niners are a mess. I mean, you know what? It might just be a throwaway year. And I don't know how acceptable that is when this is a team that's in win now mode. And I also will say this. I say it all the time. You find out who MVPs are when they're not on the field. And they're finding that out with Christian McCaffrey's absence. We're coming back. Don't go anywhere. Coming up in 10 minutes, college football. I got 3 topics to get to with Bill Bender. We're going to jam them in coming up in about 10 minutes. More football later in the show. WNBA. Oh, yeah, there was a finals finale, Game 5. We'll get to that. All right, Sam Yarnell, let's talk baseball. We got what we wanted. The world is going to get what they want. You're going to get Yankees Dodgers World Series beginning on Friday. I know I shouldn't start with this topic, but it feels like a misnomer of it. Yankees are an underdog, and I think that's nuts based on what I've seen in this postseason so far. I would take the Yankees, but we'll have time to get into the betting stuff later in the week. Let's talk about how we got here. Mets were able to push the Dodgers to a Game 6, get the series back to L.A., but the Dodgers able to win at 10-5 on Sunday night. And I'll tell you the scary thing for everybody right now, or in this case the Yankees, because they're the only team standing in front of the Dodgers in a World Series, is Shohei Ohtani is starting to rake. So that's a bit of a problem. I still like the Yankees in this series. We'll get to that, as I said, later in the week. I just can't resist saying it. Give me some thoughts on the Dodgers heading to the World Series. And you know what? Kudos to Howie Rose, who does the Mets radio broadcasts. He did a wonderful soliloquy last night on the broadcast, basically saying, while Mets fans are going to be disappointed and heartbroken and mad they didn't make it to the World Series, in a month or two, they're going to be able to think back and be like, wow, what a run this team made, considering where it was, early on in the season, middle of the season, to where it finished, to be able to get into this position and have something to build on for next year.
Yeah, which to me, I think is it's just not the right thought process. You're the New York Mets. You like to call yourself a marquee franchise in Major League Baseball, despite not having been to the World Series in a decade now. But that's beside the point. You have a top three payroll in baseball, which you've had for the last 2 years. Last year resulted in utter disaster. This year looked like utter disaster until a pop star and a Washington National came together and saved your team. You cannot be happy with how this Mets season ended or the trajectory of this Mets team, especially if you watch Pete Alonso's comments after the game yesterday. It sounds like he's gone, which is fine, but he was the second best player on that team. So now it's Francisco Lindor on a contract that is only going to get more questionable, and Brandon Nimmo, and we're expecting this Sean Manaea arm angle to continue to be the most effective in baseball. This is not good for the Mets. Great, you made it all the way to the NLCS, where the Dodgers boat raced you all the way to the World Series.
Took six games. I don't know if that's boat racing.
Sure, in three of those 6 games, the Dodgers didn't have to try for the last 3 innings.
Not a cumulative effect, though. It still took them more games to beat the Mets, who you make it sound like are the worst team in baseball, than the Yankees did in just 5 beating the Guardians. So, I mean, what's that say about the Dodgers? You lost 2 games to a team that you were a ton better than.
I think what speaks the most to those 2 things, while being true, the Yankees somehow in a series that went a game shorter managed to use more pitchers throughout their series than the Dodgers did in a series that went a game longer and where they used a bullpen game. So yeah, I 100% would get behind the idea that the Yankees are more beat up right now, because the Yankees also just played an objectively better team. The Guardians are 100% more talented than the Mets.
They are not. First of all, the Yankees are not beat up. They're going to have a whole week. I mean, come on. It's practically the layoff that you had between the start of the playoffs and their American League Divisional Series. So stop with the beat up stuff. They're not beat up. They're not going to be beat up. You got a whole week off, for crying out loud. I mean, they could go to Tijuana for a week, for crying out loud, if they wanted, before they go play the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. Real quick on the Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, how much more do we have to see from Giancarlo Stanton at this point to really throw this guy? Talk about somebody who deserves their flowers. Yeah, we can talk about Juan Soto, who has done amazing things in a city where we've seen so many free agents come and falter, or guys that have been traded to this city falter. What Juan Soto's doing is amazing. But the Yankees aren't even sniffing the World Series right now, if not for the play of Giancarlo Stanton, who has just been out of this world in big moments for this team. Yes, on the Soto stuff. I mean, what more is there to say at this point? That this guy just shows up in the big time. And obviously you already know this as a Nats fan, the talent that is Juan Soto, but he has thrust the Yankees into this World Series. Him and Stanton have kind of put the team on their back, along with Gleyber Torres, who's hitting, I believe, over 300 now in this postseason, and a Yankees bullpen that, with the exception of Game 4 in this series, Game 4, Game 3, whatever it was, Game 3, have managed to kind of bear the load. And now we get Yankees Dodgers, Sam Yarnell.
Yeah, we'll get to Yankees Dodgers in a second. Gleyber Torres just under 300, but he, along with Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton, and I guess maybe throw Anthony Volpe in there because he's hit for average. He hasn't hit for a lot of power.
He has played better.
But he's gotten on base at a decent clip.
Yeah.
Those 4 guys have been the Yankees offense this postseason.
I agree.
Juan Soto, the biggest thing about Juan Soto to me, and the most valuable thing in the grand scheme of baseball, from when he was on that championship team in Washington 5 years ago, as a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, it shows so much in this postseason. His maturity through every at-bat, through every play that he's involved in, is just a step above everybody else on the roster because none of them have been there before. But I think when we look at a guy like Aaron Judge struggling through this postseason and Juan Soto having the copious amounts of success that he is, it just speaks to kind of what experience at this level can really get you.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
What I will say with regards to the Yankees Dodgers, for anyone out there, and I know there are a large contingent of you, anyone out there who thought that this new playoff format, giving two teams a bye in each league, was bad for baseball because we were getting a Rangers World Series win, you can take this postseason and eat it, because this is the end of that argument.
Yes,
Yankees Dodgers officially closes the book on that conversation.
Very well said, Sam. You are 100% spot on with that, because we were all wondering, would we see the same thing in year 2 that we saw in year 1, and we did not. Everybody panicked after year 1, myself included. All right, stand by. We're going to talk with Bill Bender. Sam will rejoin us a little later on. Don't go anywhere. Let's take it to segment 3 on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap in 10 minutes. The WNBA Finals finale, Game 5 last night. Cheryl Reeve calling foul. Let's bring in our friend Bill Bender. Does a great job with the sporting news. I make sure I remember to say it at the beginning of the segment. Excellent on college football. All right, start me out with Georgia and Texas. Give me your reaction to what we saw on Saturday.
Well, Georgia got the underdog card. We talked about that last week on here. And Kirby used it all week and used it on the network afterward, after that defense really strained Texas with causing turnovers and limiting the Longhorns to 1.1 yards per carry. You're not beating anybody in a big-time game if you average 1 yard per carry. So, Texas panicked a little bit. I do think the Arch Manning substitution was a little bit by design to settle Quinn Ewers down a little bit, and that showed in the second half. And also, Jason, I've never seen them reverse a pass interference call like that ever in my life. It was wild. But credit to Georgia for going in and reminding everybody that, yeah, they're still pretty good.
They got beat up on a lot in the media last week. So it was easy for Kirby to sort of take us versus the world mentality, and it kind of felt like that was where this game went.
Yeah, and obviously Carson Beck played through some turnovers. I still don't think their running game is what it normally is. Etienne got started a little bit, but their physicality up front was good. I think Carson Beck's going to keep them in every game, and this was huge for them because they still have to play Tennessee. And they still have to go to Ole Miss. And I think that gives them a little wiggle room in terms of they could probably lose one more and still get in the playoff. And, for them, the consequences were less than for their usual rival, Alabama. I was thoroughly impressed with Georgia and everything they did. I just don't know if any one of these SEC teams is truly dominant, but I could say the same thing about the Big Ten.
All right, stay in the SEC then. Alabama and Tennessee, obviously. And now you're talking about an Alabama team that's lost 2 out of their last 3 after that win against Georgia. With 2 losses, if they win out, still a playoff team because of that win over Georgia? Does that still bolster their resume?
Yeah, but I don't know that we can have this conversation yet because can they get through Missouri this week? Every week, a different leak springs up. 3 weeks ago against Georgia, it was a terrible second half. And then against Vandy, couldn't get off the field on third down. Against Tennessee, couldn't stay on the field on third down on offense and had a couple bad interceptions by Jalen Milroe. So this isn't a grimy team, and you need to have that a little bit. Tennessee has that. And Georgia has that, where you can get down and dirty and play some pretty good defense. And I have questions about this week. I think they'll beat Missouri, but this isn't going to be a blowout like Texas A&M. At least it doesn't feel like it. But, yeah, if they do get to 10 wins, they'll get in. But it's a long way to get there when you look at their schedule.
We have to change our mindset. We used to think, 1 loss, let alone 2, was the end-all, be-all for so many teams. And that's simply not the case anymore because of these stacked conferences. I almost can understand now when teams schedule these puffballs, early in the season now because the conference schedule is such a grind, Bill.
Oh, it really is. And obviously, it's a little bit, it's like the NFL. I mean, I've been watching the Chiefs every week, and the thought popped in my head yesterday is, are they going to lose? And I almost think there's a better chance for the Chiefs to run the table than for somebody to do it in college football, which I've never would have dreamed of saying before. And, you look at Oregon and Penn State, they still got to go through some good teams. The SEC now doesn't have an undefeated team overall, has a couple in conference play, and we'll see Texas A&M and LSU play this week. But it is wild, and you're exactly right. It has changed the nature of how we have to watch these games, and it feels more like the NFL with each week.
Yeah, it certainly does. How much of an eyebrow raiser is it for you for Indiana to do what it did against Nebraska? I mean, just simply dismantling. I mean, boat racing.
They're good. There's no way around it. They're more than good, too.
I know Ohio State is the game we're going to judge them by, but, I mean, it has to raise your expectations about what they can do in that Ohio State game when you see what they did yesterday.
I really wish
Curtis
Rourke wouldn't have. Yeah, if Curtis Rourke doesn't get hurt, it's a completely different game. I mean, I hope he's back for that Ohio State game because he's an NFL quarterback. He's at least a day 2 quarterback. And they have the transfers in from James Madison. Their running game is relentless. They play fast on defense. They forced 5 turnovers. They took advantage of every turnover against Nebraska and turned that into a blowout. And they're taking a cue from that coach. Kurt Cignetti's cocky, arrogant. He's a Big Ten, the closest thing the Big Ten's had to a Steve Spurrier in my lifetime in terms of being very upfront and letting you know he's coming after you. So I do think that Ohio State game could be very interesting, but I'm hoping Curtis Rourke is on the field for that one.
How many undefeated teams could potentially not wind up in the playoff because of some of these stacked conferences? What are there, 12 undefeated teams, something like that in college football right now? And it feels like there's a chance that, again, we're going to be talking about playoff time and teams that are going to be crying foul because they're undefeated and are still not finding themselves in the playoff. Could that happen?
Well, out of the group of 5, in the Power 4, no. I think any undefeated team, whether it's Pitt, if they find a way to go undefeated, they would be in the playoff. But I think I would go the other way. There are going to be some 2-loss teams that give the committee a headache. So I'll give you an example. Illinois, 1-loss team right now. Let's say Illinois goes to Oregon, gets beat this weekend, wins out, finishes 10-2 in the Big Ten. What do you do with them? That's a great season.
Yeah.
What do we do with, I'm going to say it, a Colorado? Colorado wins out, doesn't play for the Big 12 championship, finishes 10-2 with losses to Nebraska and Kansas State. Do you put Dion in? You'd love to put Dion in.
You'd love to, but you can't.
Right. And those are the kind of conversations I think we're going to start to have in November.
Because that Nebraska loss looks a lot worse now, too.
And it's going to look even worse after Ohio State beats Nebraska on Saturday by whatever point total that turns out to be.
Yeah. What do you make of the Army-Navy thing? The fact that, it's been, since 1960 that they were both undefeated, or 1945 or something like that. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, I think it's definitely creating an interesting narrative. I love both teams' quarterbacks. They're playing amazing. And
if one of them winds up undefeated, or can they wind up in the playoff?
I would. I think the dynamic of, here's something I was talking about last week. Let's say they both upset Notre Dame or whatever. Or they make this American Athletic Conference championship and both teams only losses to Notre Dame. Can you ditch the American Athletic Conference championship and just say their regular season game is the title game? I would hate to see those teams play back-to-back weeks is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you could settle it in one game in a winner-take-all event.
That's a good point. Bill Bender does a great job. College football, the sporting news. Thank you, my friend. We will talk to you next week.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Coming up in 10 minutes, Sammy Arnell will return for Something to Consider. Talk about the Deshaun Watson injury yesterday, and I've got something to say about it. You might agree with it. You might disagree with it. I don't care if people like... I'm long gotten past the point, 30 years doing this, of really being upset one way or another what anybody says. The only people I care about when it comes to their opinion of me as a person are family, loved ones, best friends, things like that. I'm going to say things you agree with on this show. I'm going to say things you disagree with on this show. And I'm okay with that. It comes with the territory. But there's something that needs to be said. And it may surprise you what I'm going to say when it comes to the Deshaun Watson injury and how the fans in Cleveland handled it and how I saw people handling it on social media as well. We'll get to that coming up. But first, let's talk about WNBA Game 5 finals. And congratulations to the New York Liberty. Let me start there. Flagship franchise for the WNBA. I remember talking to Rebecca Lobo when she first got drafted into the WNBA out of UConn as an 18-year-old, I think I was when I interviewed her. And all these years later, she's there and able to call the game as the Liberty win their first WNBA title. Congrats to them. Jonquel Jones is your MVP of the finals. Well-deserved. I thought everybody got it right in that regard. Now, let me say a few other things. One, Sabrina Ionescu celebrating and acting like, she played this huge role in this Game 5 of this championship. I get being excited, and I get the fact that she just won a WNBA title, and it's a long season, even though it's not as long as it could be. It's a long season, and it's been, this trek and this journey to winning a WNBA title. I get all that. But let's not pretend she didn't have one of the worst all-time performances by a star player in any championship finale. She was horrific. This game stunk, with the exception of, the final few minutes of overtime and obviously the final couple minutes of regulation. Neither team got out of the 60s. Let's not pretend this was some basketball masterclass. You had one team shoot 37%, another team shot 30%. Let's stop pretending this was some game for the ages. It was an amazing WNBA finals. It was a good playoffs. It was a great year, a groundbreaking year for the WNBA, in which it will push forward. And nobody will hear me say that. They'll only hear me taking a dump on Game 5, and that's fine. Whatever makes you happy, and you could throw your vitriol and anger my way. But stop pretending this was a great game. This was mid-90s Knicks Miami Heat kind of bad. I mean, knockout, drag-out affair. I don't want to hear people complaining about how Caitlin Clark was fouled this year and stuff like that, because that is the way these games have been called all season. And this game was emblematic of that. Every time Jonquel Jones drives to the basket, she would hook the defender with her elbow. And if you don't know what a hook is, she would hook people. She would hook the defender with her elbow every time. Never see it called as an offensive foul. Never see it called. And then there's this debacle late in the game. Breanna Stewart travel and then does not get fouled by the defender. They review it and still ruled that she got fouled. And we'll get to Cheryl Reeves' reaction to that in a second. But Breanna Stewart got bailed out. Remember, she missed 2 free throws just moments earlier. Again, in a big moment. What was Spike Lee thinking courtside, by the way? Watching this play out. It had to have shades of John Starks against the Houston Rockets all over again, right? Game 7 NBA Finals, when Starks had like a 3 for 18 or something like that. It was a disaster. With Ionescu playing the way she did. Breanna Stewart missing free throws. Patrick Ewing, one of my favorite players of all time. See the signed basketball back there? Missed a couple of those free throws in his career. Broke my heart. After the game, Cheryl Reeve rightly taking the officials to task.
I know all the headlines will be Reeve cries foul. Bring it on, right? Bring it on. Because the shit was stolen from us. Bring it on.
Coach, when you make a comment like that, what do you say to your ladies on the team about how to process this?
Well, we talked about it, we know we could have done some things, right? But you shouldn't have to overcome to that extent. This shit ain't that hard. Officiating it's not that hard. When someone is being held, be consistent. If you don't want to hold it one end, then don't call it the other. Be consistent. Every team asked for that, right? Sandy asked for that last game. So 3 of the games in the series, we're talking about the same damn thing, right? So I tell these guys, for whatever reason it didn't work out, right? It just doesn't.
So there you go. And I agree with her, but I think 2 things can be true here. One, yeah, the officiating stunk at the end of the game. And there's an argument to be made that the Lynx really did get screwed here. And the WNBA is going to have to answer for that. And maybe there are changes to how the replay assist is handled and all of that. But the other thing that's true here, you shot 37%. And in the overtime, you went away from Nafisha Collier till she fouled out late in that OT. And she was the only person consistently getting to the rack and scoring. So, 2 things can be true. Yeah, the officials screwed it up, and yeah, the Lynx had to do a better job in Game 5 on the road. We're coming back with something to consider next. All right, we roll along on this Monday edition of SportsWrap. Odds and ends coming up in about 10 minutes. NFL predictions. Big surprise at NASCAR yesterday as well. Sammy Arnell rejoins us. The banner reads, has society crossed the Rubicon? Something to consider. And maybe we already crossed it. Maybe we've gotten to a point where we're so cold and maybe this is always who we were. Maybe we're just speaking it more. Let me preface this by saying, Sam, I am not a Deshaun Watson fan. I have not often, but I have occasionally discussed the fact that I am a victim of sexual assault as a child. So this is something that hits me personally whenever we talk about Deshaun Watson and what he's been accused of, the civil settlements, all of that stuff. And even what's out there now in the press that's kind of lingering out there, these investigations that are out there. But we have to be better. We have to be better as a society than simply booing a guy who just popped his Achilles and will be lost now for the season. And who knows? I mean, this really might be it for his career at this point. If there's any way for the Browns to figure out a way to get out of this deal, they're going to do it, no matter how they have to, and no matter what that looks like. To the Cleveland Browns fans, and this is what upsets me the most. This organization and its fan base went gaga when they basically gave up the farm, basically gave up the organization and put it in Deshaun Watson's hands and gave him one of the most ridiculous contracts that we've ever seen, that NFL teams to this day are all raising their eyebrows at and probably hate the Haslams for, because of the fact that it kind of shifted the quarterback market as far as salaries were concerned. But for Cleveland Browns fans, you are the worst. And for years, I have sympathized with this fan base and said, man, how good would it be to have a winner in Cleveland? Let me tell you something. You don't deserve a winner. You aren't worthy of a winner. When you go out there and boo a guy that you loved 7 weeks ago, that you loved when the organization brought him in, despite everything you knew about him, and you have the audacity to sit there and boo as a guy's crying going off the field on a cart because he's just suffered this, I don't want to say catastrophic injury, but certainly a season-ending injury. Shame on you, Cleveland Browns fans. And kudos to Myles Garrett and Jameis Winston for standing up after the game, and other Browns players did too, and saying what needed to be said. You should all be embarrassed. You should all be embarrassed. No matter what you think of what Deshaun Watson has done. He wasn't found guilty in a criminal court. That's what we judge how we put people away on. He obviously served his time as far as the NFL was concerned in terms of being able to play on the field. You loved him when they brought him in, And now because you don't like the way he's played and the way the organization's gone, and you didn't have Nick Chubb for the start of the season and blah, 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 and you've traded away Amari Cooper, now everything is Deshaun Watson's fault. Give me a break.
So I think there are some key nuances to the Deshaun Watson fallout, right? First of all, when the Browns signed him to this deal, we did not know the extent to which any of these accusations were, let alone the one that came out a month ago. But we did not know that 24 women were going to come out and accuse him for sexual assault. Sexual assault, excuse me. I believe the number at the time he signed the contract was 6, which regardless,
It's still enough. I mean, how many do we need?
100%. Don't disagree with
Okay.
you. Do not disagree with you there. From Deshaun Watson to go from that to serving his 11-game suspension, as you mentioned, imposed by the league. By the way, 23 of those 24 lawsuits settled out of court. To then come back for 2 games and then miss the rest of the season with injury, only to be built up coming into this year, play horribly. Like there's no getting around it. He has played like one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the league.
Yes.
For an organization that has yearned for winning since the days of Baker Mayfield, since before the days of Baker Mayfield, but thought they had a chance at it since the days of Baker Mayfield.
Who they also ran out of town, by the way.
100%. And we've talked about that on the show, and that was a bad look for Browns fans. Definitely. But I'll just say this, Jason. I think that when you consider, and then I didn't mention, but I did in passing, a month ago, week 2 of the NFL season, another allegation against Deshaun Watson comes out of sexual assault, which he promptly settles out of court for an undisclosed amount of money, like he did the other 23 of the 24 from before.
Yep.
It's hard for me to sit there and not feel for Browns fans for knowing that their owners have put them in a horrible spot where they have to trot this guy out onto the field every week, but they were frustrated, and that was their way to ventilate their frustration. And I just can't sit here and say that Deshaun Watson is a good enough human being that he doesn't deserve to be booed for what he did. It's the bed that he made. He has to lie in it.
You don't boo the guy on the cart. You just don't boo the guy who's getting carted off the field. You just don't. I mean, then what's the line? What would be the line, Sam? If he had been paralyzed, if he had been on a backboard, then you can't boo? Like where's the line? Like, where is it? I don't know where it is anymore in society. That's what just boggles my mind that we've reached a point where a home fan base thinks that's okay. I don't know. We'll come back. We got odds and ends right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. We'll have a Monday Night Football doubleheader recap on tomorrow's show. Don't forget, if you miss anything from this show or any of the shows during the week, we have the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast that's available for you. You can check us on our picks that we make. I think we both went 2-2 this week, if I'm not mistaken, Sam Yarnell. I think we both went 2-2.
I had one. All right. Full disclosure. I gotta be honest.
Are you
here
talking
for
about the 51 points? Oh, no.
No. I totally. I was 1-1. I think through the early window, and then I had 2 picks in the late slate, and I fell asleep and stopped tracking them. So I'll go back and look and let you know later in the week, but I don't have it in front of me right now.
I think, oh my God, you sound like a White House press secretary. I'll get back to you on that. I think we both. I'm pretty sure it's good. I think we both went 2-2. So go check out the vodcast version of the show. I was 4-0 last week, 2-2 this week. I have not done worse than 2-2 on the season. Have you had a 1-3?
Neither of us have.
We have not. Yeah, neither of us have done worse than 2-2 on the year. So we're doing all right. All right. Without any further delay, Sam Yarnell, time for some odds. That ends. Odds and ends. Congratulations, JT Poston, the winner of the Shriner Children's Classic in Las Vegas this weekend. And it's not the first time he's won on the tour. He's got a couple of wins to his credit. So congratulations, JT Poston. Congratulations, Joey Logano. Wow. Going from the playoff bubble, he was 8th out of the 8 drivers. He was right on the playoff bubble. Again, they still have a couple of races left in this round. But Joey Logano, your winner, I think he was 19-1, either to win the playoffs or 19-1 to win yesterday. I saw Tino Patino, our NASCAR guy, going absolutely crazy about it yesterday. So congratulations, Joey Logano. He has punched his ticket for the Final Four for the NASCAR playoffs and for the NASCAR playoff season. All right, Sam, we've got 2 Monday Night Football games, and I'm going to tell our audience in advance, I'm not watching one of them because I am not paying for ESPN Plus. It's not happening. There's just no chance. I'll listen to it on the radio. I am on the radio, or find some other place to watch it. But I am not going to take out a ESPN Plus subscription to watch one NFL game. It's not happening. Isn't it Chargers Cardinals that's the second game anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not happening. It's not happening. I love sports and I talk about it for a living, but I am not paying a subscription literally for that one thing. I can argue it for Peacock. There's other things I watch in the NBC family. You know, if I have to do it for Paramount, I can do it. My significant other will watch things that are on Paramount Plus. Not doing it. Not doing it for this. Not doing it, Sam.
Jason hates 30 for 30. Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it because I love Spanish soccer over in Spain, so I subscribe to ESPN Plus because they have all the games on there, so I'll be tuned in.
Right. You can give the full recap. You will be in charge of that recap tomorrow. We'll go solo shot of you. Have at it.
I'll say this, horrible marketing by ESPN to have these 2 games and put that one on the subscription service instead of the better game between the Bucks and the Ravens.
Good call.
Whatever. That's above my pay grade, clearly. I'm going to watch both. It's interesting how they kind of are doing this more and more. And I think we have like Netflix games on Christmas this year. You're going to have to pay like $4,000 by next year if you want to watch every NFL game.
Well, first of all, who has time to watch every NFL game? It's stupid. You can't watch every game. Get your Red Zone channel. Get your Red Zone channel. I can understand the Peacocks and the Paramount and the Netflix because most people have those anyway. And it is what it is. You watch what you watch. Prime Video. Everybody has Amazon Prime. Do you have Amazon Prime? Sam, you look like you.
I have Amazon Prime. I got to watch Thursday Night Football. And I guess I have too much time on my hands because I somehow get enough screens to manage to watch all of the games.
Yes, you do have too much time on your hands. When I was your age, I used to do the same thing. All right, Ravens, Buccaneers, Bucks plus 3.5 at home, 160 on the money line, and 49.5 is your total for that game. What are you thinking? Real quick.
Got to be Ravens, got to be over. And I like a special, too. We're going to get a little funky. A little special. Derrick Henry over on FanDuel. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, 10-plus rushing yards in each quarter, 28-1.
Ooh, I think I might tail you on that. It's better than my touchdown field goal bet on last Thursday night's primetime game. Yeah, I like that. I don't have a good feel on this game. I'll put out a pick on X before that game gets going. I got to look at it a little bit more. Chargers, Cardinals. Cardinals plus 1.5, minus 102, 44.5 the total.
Puke, bet the under. These teams are both terrible. I mean, if I'm betting with your money, I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm taking the under. If you're betting with my money, you're not betting because I have no money. I'm married. I have no money. One day you will be too, and you'll have no money. You'll be betting with somebody else's money because it won't be mine. That's going to wrap it up for us. This Monday edition of Sports Wrap is in the books. We'll see you all back here on Tuesday. Monday Night Football recap. Weekend leftovers. Thank you, Bill Bender. Thank you, Sam Yarnell. See you all back here for more Sports Wrap on Tuesday. See ya.